Hey there, Feel Good Factor fans. This is Chris McPeak from the Elevate Your 8 podcast, where I help career professionals and entrepreneurs create time freedom. If you want to banish busy and create more time for the things you love, come Elevate Your 8 with me, Chris McPeak. Right now, you're listening to the Feel Good Factor with your host, Susmitha Veganosaurus.
That was my friend Chris from the Elevate Your 8 podcast. So, Chris is full of enthusiasm, energy, and she is a pro with productivity and planning. You have to totally check out her show, Elevate Your 8. And now, back to today's regularly scheduled programming, where I've got a really special guest for all of you to meet. Hey everyone, I have Raw Chef Yin here on the show today. So, Chef Yin and I met at the Bali Vegan Festival a few years ago, and it is kind of nice to see each other through all the different events and all the activities that were happening during the festival. And back then, I just knew her as another participant, and I didn't know that she was a very, very well known raw chef from Malaysia. And that's because she's very friendly, down to earth. And, you know, when you talk to her, it feels nice. You can connect with the person without actually being overwhelmed. Sometimes you just get, intimidated by people who are very well known. But in Chef Yin's case, she's like really sweet. And we got to know each other, and it's been nice. And after that, I've followed her on her YouTube and Instagram, and we've just been connecting once in a while. Chef Yin has a very interesting story, and I wanted her to share with all of you how she chose the path of creativity and joy for herself and moved away from what she was doing before. And she's in a country where I think raw food, forget raw food, even vegan food wasn't really that well known or heard of back when she began. And yet she has been a big contributor to changing the mindset of people there in her country. So it was very inspiring to me. And I thought, yeah, you all can get inspired too. So here we go. Hello, hi, Ian. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Susmitha.
How's everything going with you?
Good. It's been a really interesting year, and a lot of good things have come out of it. So I'm actually very grateful.
I'm glad to know. So, what kind of good things because of because of staying at home and stuff? So, what has happened? Like, what good things have come out for you?
I think so. Actually, when I started this year, I actually did list out my plans and goals for 2020, and one of the things I wanted to do was start making online courses because, in fact, during the time when we met in Bali, I think there were a few people who were already asking me, can I do some online courses for them, because they wanted to learn from me, and they didn't just want to get my ebooks, they actually wanted videos. And at that time because I was so busy traveling, and I was doing a lot of live events, so I wasn't too keen on making courses but then this year I thought, it's time to start doing that. But what I had envisioned was, to hire a whole team, to put everything together, to film everything beautifully and things like that. But then the lockdown happened, the pandemic happened. And but what I've learned to do is to do a lot of DIY recording myself. And that has turned out pretty interesting and pretty well. So people all over the world have been learning how to make, things like raw vegan cheese, tempeh, raw vegan Japanese food, raw vegan Korean food from me, all from my online courses. So I'm actually I actually feel very blessed that I'm now able to reach out to an international crowd and be able to share my raw food experiences and my techniques and my recipes and my knowledge with people all over the world, rather than just in a workshop setting where at the most it can be like 20 people only.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because again, we used to do a lot of workshops ourselves, like, physical workshops in Bangalore at our restaurant, as well as traveling and doing
Mm-hmm.
these workshops. But we considered online courses. We're like, we should do it sometime. We do have a YouTube channel like you, and we're like, but not as big, but it's there. And we're like, oh, let's do an online course sometime. And we just never got around to it. But because of the pandemic, it was like a kick in our butts. We're like, now we have to do this. And it's beautiful because sometimes this is what happens, right? You get pushed in a corner sometimes, and that actually expands your whole worldview. You turn in a different direction entirely. And reaching international audience, that's good. That is the way of the future. The world has to be smaller through the online world. I've seen your live videos. You did a lot of live videos on Instagram too, throughout the Insta, Facebook. I think you did them all parallelly
Yes, that's
through
right.
throughout the pandemic, and it was nice to watch you work. And I like what you said about sometimes we complicate things, and we're like, yeah, it will be beautiful to have a whole team and do professional videos, but you are doing so much already without actually having to depend on any outside people, like all on your own, and that's very possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got into the whole raw food, raw chef game. How did you even get onto this?
You know what? It's quite funny because I never ever set out to be a raw food chef, and I never in my dreams would I have, have thought that I would actually become a chef. So,
Mhm.
um, like all Asian families, they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or, or an engineer. And so I actually studied law. So I do have a law degree.
Mhm.
Funnily enough, I did not practice law. I ended up in public relations instead. Because I think when you study law, you have those language skills, your analytical skills, and things like that. So I was in public relations for 15 years, and then I got kind of tired and stressed of the corporate world. So I left that in 2012, and then I just started trying to find my passion. And it took me some time. I was dabbling in different kind of things. I was still doing PR training. I was in arts management. I was doing some writing here and there and things like that. And then in 2014, I bought this ice cream maker, and I was just looking for healthy ice cream recipes when I found this raw vegan lasagna recipe online.
Ooh.
And yeah, by this Rossum Vegan Life, Emily. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I made that, and then I was so surprised because I was like, wow, this tastes so great, and I felt so energized. That was the thing that really struck me. I just felt absolutely energized
Mhm.
by the dish. And I started doing more research, and I realized like, oh, it's because it's raw food, and it wasn't heated up at all. And then I found Matthew Kenny,
Mhm.
and I was just blown away by his absolutely beautiful raw vegan creations. And I enrolled in my first Matthew Kenny course in 2015, and then 2016 I took two more courses, and then after that I started teaching because already in already in 2015 I had a lot of requests from people to
Mhm.
ask me to teach. I was just documenting my journey on Instagram, and that was more for like a personal documentation, just to see my journey and all that. I wasn't intending to do anything with it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just got a lot of requests to teach, so I started teaching, and I really enjoyed it. And then it just grew from there. I think I every year I equip myself with more knowledge. I seek out teachers. I take master classes and all that. So just to make sure that I am on top of what the latest um, innovations are in the
Mhm.
raw vegan
Mhm.
cuisine. Yeah. So Bali Vegan Festival also was one of the things that I attended because I wanted to know what because raw vegan food in Bali, especially in Ubud, it's
Huge, yeah.
Yes, right. It's
In
heaven
fact,
for
more than
me.
vegan food, you find raw vegan food there, right? Like everywhere you look, it's like raw, raw, raw. I'm like, whoa, what? So when you in 2012 when you quit your job and all those things, were you already vegan by that time?
Not yet, but so in the, I think like 19, I'm trying to remember, in the early 1990s, like 1993, 94, I started cutting down on meat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was more or less pescatarian. I wasn't a strict pescatarian, so because like when you go out for family social events, so I would just eat whatever that
Mm-hmm.
your everybody else at the family table is eating, because it's we eat family style, right? So you just order
Yeah.
dishes and you all share. So but I did cut down on a lot of meat. So I stopped eating pork, I stopped eating chicken. I didn't really eat beef. So I did have fish because, everybody tells you need your protein. And at that time, there wasn't really the internet yet in Malaysia. I think the internet only started coming to Malaysia in 1995, 96. So before that,
Yeah, late 90s. True, true.
yeah.
Even here in India, it came in late 90s. And even when the internet was there, till I think way late in 2000s is when veganism was even available on the internet in a bigger way. It
Hmm.
not in the 90s when the internet
Yeah.
came out, for sure.
Yeah. So I did cut down on a lot of meat. So I never really missed meat that much. Yeah, I never really
Mm,
liked meat that much anyway to begin with. So I really
mm.
enjoyed my vegetables even as a kid. So yeah, it
Okay.
was perfect for me. Yeah. So I only started transitioning to becoming vegan in 2015. Yeah, it was a transition. So from kind of
So it was
pescatarian.
after you found the raw vegan lasagna and started doing
Yes.
that's when you started going vegan also more seriously. I guess that's because you really saw the true benefits of it, right? Like
Exactly.
until you
Exactly.
experienced it, you wouldn't know. Yeah, that
Yeah.
and I really like what I like about your. There are plenty of raw vegan chefs, and everybody has their own style. Like you said, you named a couple of other chefs too who have their own style. What I really like about yours is that you aren't, I mean, yes, you do make all these international food and desserts, but you also focus a lot on your own cuisine, things that you've grown up with, Asian food from
Mhm.
Malaysia as well as other surrounding countries, things like that. And that's really nice because I believe that raw food can be, because it's out there as Western cuisine most of the time, so
Yeah.
it can actually be made into other, in fact, I'm sure your Asian raw foods taste more delicious because the flavors are more, right, the spices and flavors and things like that. So what inspired you to start doing that, start creating Asian, Malaysian particularly, raw vegan food?
Well, I've always been a foodie, and I've
Mhm.
always enjoyed food, and I love my Asian heritage and my Asian cuisine. So when I learned how to make this raw vegan food, yeah, it was mainly Western food. It's always like, your marinara
Fettuccine,
zoodles, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, your
Yeah.
raw cheesecakes and your raw brownies and your kale
Mm.
chips and all that. So I wanted to taste food that I am familiar with, that I really love. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what, I could always use the raw food techniques that I've learned to make Western food and apply that to Asian cuisine instead. And I noticed that were very few raw food teachers out there who were doing that, So
Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
started doing
It's
more of
very rare to see that. You're absolutely right. And when we were in Bali, we visited the very well-known chef there with the raw restaurant. I can't remember the name of the restaurant now. Oh God, it's just gone out of my head. The one who did the demo.
Was it Moxa?
Yes,
With
yes,
Chef
Moxa.
Nade.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the food was fantastic, and I was so impressed because he had like raw uttapams and stuff. He had Indian
Yeah.
raw food
Yeah.
too, like so creative, and that really impressed me because yes, I've eaten. Though I'm vegan, I do also appreciate raw vegan food quite a bit if it's done well and if it's flavorful and beautifully presented and everything. And like you said, it feels nice on your tummy, and you feel fresh and so nice, energized after eating that kind of a meal. But I had never eaten something with this kind of a twist, and I was so impressed. So that's why when you keep talking about your Asian raw food, I'm always like, oh wow. Recently you had posted a photograph of because you did a live YouTube video yesterday, right? And you had posted a photo of a coconut based curry kind of a dish.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it looks so good. Yum. So you got into this because you were just exploring, and you got creative, and you're like, okay, let me start doing this. So how was the transition? Like you said, people here expect you to be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, etc., right? That is the standard thing. So
Mhm.
when you switched to this kind of lifestyle, when you became a chef and you started going on that path and in that direction, what was the reaction of the people around you?
Actually, it wasn't easy, but I think it was just because I believed in it so much and I was so passionate about it. I think nothing could stop me. It's so funny because now I look back, I realize I think in my first year there was so many obstacles. I mean, like people kept turning me down. I had so many rejections, but I was I just truly believed in raw vegan food. So I just like, oh, okay, when one person says no, I just go to the next person and the next person. I mean, when I did my very first class, there was only like I had 3 people who signed up, but only 2 people actually turned up for the class because I think one person's something happened and she couldn't turn up and things like that. But that didn't get me down. And actually now I'm looking at it like, wow.
It is wow, because out of the blue it's your very first class, and yet you had 2 people turn up. That is a big deal, right? And that too for a cuisine that was unheard of.
Yeah. Even until now, raw vegan food is still very new in Malaysia. And I have other raw vegan chefs from the other parts of the world. They go like, wow, you're really brave, aren't you?
I think that's what like I was saying in the intro, you personally are making a big impact on the raw vegan scene in your country because people are becoming aware of it. And you may not even realize it sometimes, right? Like you just go there, do what you love, and your passion and your love for this whole cooking and the recipes, everything comes out in the videos, and that automatically inspires people, because if people are watching you and seeing that positivity from you about this, it's always going to be inspiring. They're like, oh, I want to feel this way too. Somewhere on the inside, this is what they're thinking. And that's, I really admire that. And I'm sure you're going, even there's a lot of future in this raw vegan cuisine. And which brings me to, you even recently published a bilingual book, right?
Yeah, that's really exciting. So this, I was approached by the publisher earlier this year, and they said they were looking for a raw expert on desserts, and they asked me whether I was keen on doing this or not, and I said, yeah, sure. And so they proposed, certain things that they thought would work for the book, and they also asked me to suggest recipes, and then we took it from there, and then I developed some recipes. So it's 50 recipes, 50 raw vegan dessert recipes.
Wow.
And so it's a combination of some of the recipes that are some of my favorites, and I also wanted to develop some new ones as well that people haven't, people might not have tried before and all that. So I did that, and then we had a full on photography session, and then and then it was published. I don't actually read and write Chinese, so they actually have a team of really good editors to do the translation for me. So now,
Okay.
because I do have there is a huge vegetarian Chinese speaking community in Malaysia, and some of them have said they're actually a bit shy to attend my class because they don't really speak good English, and they were a bit worried with interacting with the other students as well. So I think, yeah, they're very happy to see this book is out. So everything is, it's in Chinese as well as English, so they can actually, yeah, it's easily accessible for them, and they can read it easily, and they can actually make the desserts in this book. Yeah.
Wow. And what kind of desserts are there? Of course, the
Yeah.
cheesecake and the ice cream, yes, but what else have you done which you developed newly just for the book?
So we've broken it. We've divided into different parts. So there's like the decadent dessert. So there are things like your tiramisu and your churros and your chocolate tarts and things like that. And then we have energy boosters. So I have I just did a demo on buckwheat energy bars. There's a biscotti as well. And then there were some small bites. So, some fruit chips, some chocolate chip cookies, there's a sesame brittle. And then there's also a portion that they suggested on quick beverages. So, I have some smoothies, some juice. I also have a freak shake. And then I also have a matcha cappuccino. And then there's some, they call it chilled treats, which are, like the frozen desserts. So there's the ice cream, there's the sorbets, there's the ice cream bars, there's a semifreddo as well, there's a granita, gelatos, froyos. And then there's a dessert, Christmas section as well, because, Christmas is coming up. So this would make very good Christmas gifts for friends, actually. So, yeah, I know, because one of my students, she told me like, oh, they got 3 books. I said, did you get 3 of my books? Or you went to the bookstore and got like 3 different books? They say, no, we got 3 of your books, 1 for me and 2 for my friends as presents.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. After you were talking about it really brings to mind the importance of even promoting other languages too, and promoting your work in other languages, because you are doing something very specialized and something that's good for the world. It's not just random recipes because they're tasty. It's also something that's going to benefit the people who are going to try them and make them, and choose these healthy desserts instead of the regular desserts out there. And it's so beautiful that it's being promoted in a different language too, so that people who don't speak English very well or who are not comfortable enough in the language can read it in their own language. So has this inspired you to also do some videos and online courses in other languages? You said you don't read and write Chinese. Do you speak Chinese?
I speak a bit of Cantonese, but I grew up in a very English-speaking family. So honestly, I would consider English as my first language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I have done one demo in Malay, which is our national language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there was something I was half thinking and half exploring, wondering whether I wanted to do some, Malay, speaking in Malay and doing the demos, but I don't actually know the terms.
It's funny. So I'm a big believer of this too. And for our YouTube videos, we do most of our videos are in English, but I also do a lot in Kannada, which is my language here in our state of Karnataka in the southern part of India where I live. That's our language. And I do a bunch of videos in that. And though it is my mother tongue, I do we speak a lot of English as well as Kannada. So I have equal love for both the languages.
Mm-hmm.
But, being brought up in a city, what happens is you don't speak a very pure traditional language. It gets mixed up with English. So what I do is I speak in English. I speak in Kannada, but whatever words I don't know in Kannada, I just say it in English.
Yeah.
And I feel like, people will understand that much. But at least there is a video out there in this language, so it's okay to mix things up, use some terms in English, but still speak in, in Malay or whatever it is that you choose to.
Yeah, I think that works, because that works in Malaysia as well. I mean, you could be speaking in Malay, and then if you can't figure out what the term is, the Malay term is, and then you say in English, most people will understand it. Because I did ask around, I did say what is the Malay word for vegan? And I think No, for raw vegan, right? I was
I
asking my
think the
Malay
raw will
friend.
be easy. It's the vegan word that will not, right? But yeah, like that you speak in Malay and then you say vegan, raw vegan when you when
Yeah,
you're talking about the word raw.
yeah, that's something to
Well,
consider. Yes.
definitely, because I'm sure a lot of the reaction I've got is I've had some friends who've said that for the longest time I wanted my family to go vegan and they didn't even bother considering it, but they watched your videos in Kannada and now they're going vegan because you spoke in their language, and I'm like,
Mm,
wow, there is a lot of power in that, and I believe with your book too now is going to help a lot of the people who speak Chinese who may not be vegan, who may not be raw vegan, actually consider going that, because there's that warmth when you hear things in your own language or read things in your own language.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
I like what you said about. I asked you why, how difficult it was when you
Mm.
changed and you had all these obstacles. And I love what you said about you believed in it so much that nothing could stop you. So, how did that, can you explain how you felt, in that moment when you're thinking, like, oh, I'm going in this direction? People need to recognize the signs when you know that this is the path you need to take. And there's this inner feeling. Is there a description you have for that?
Um, I'm not sure. I think because when I'm actually doing it, I'm not really thinking. It's just that when I look back, I realize it's interesting because now I'm already coming towards the end of my 5th year. I do remember the first year, I was just like super passionate, right? So I remember going to this restaurant and going like, I will conduct workshops here. I can do this, I can do that. Let me design, develop recipes for you and things like that. And now I look back, I'm like, wow, that was just my first year, and there I am, knocking on doors and saying that. I think I do remember the second year, I was kind of like, is this the right thing for me? Should I really be doing this?
Mhm.
Or should I just, go back and do something else that go back into public relations because that's what I'm good at, and then, but I just persevered. I just kept on because, like I said, I really believed in it. And then I think in the third year, things started picking up. That's when I started
Mm.
getting the invitations to speak at vegan festivals. That's when companies started hiring me to conduct demos. And that's when more and more people started coming to my workshops. And also, I think that was most probably when I started. Yeah, then that's when I released my book as well. So when things started picking up, there was so many um, I saw so many positive outcomes. So that was very, very encouraging. So I just carried on. And then the fourth year, it was like, it's just like a no brainer. You're like, how can I not do this? You see, right? And I just really love it. I think I'm so blessed to be given the opportunity to do something that when I wake up every day, I'm like, okay, what am I going to make? Okay, what am I going to record? What am I going to develop? And it's, yeah. So yes, year 2 was a bit tough, but I think
Mm.
I rode through the waves and got through it. And then after that, yeah, things just started happening, and I was like, wow, this is super cool.
I think there's a nice lesson for people, when they listen to your story and this whole journey. There's a lesson to say, like, yes, go with that gut of, oh my God, I love doing this. And then, even in the middle, if there are ups and downs and things may go wrong, you still stick to it because you feel like, okay, I believe in this. And so, following what you believe in, that I guess is the key here. And then things will turn out for the good. And, you keep talking about PR, and I believe that your PR background it's similar to how you said you studied law, and your law background is what helped you go and grow on this path of PR, which was entirely different. But because of what you learned there, it helped you here. And I feel like what you have learned in PR is actually helping you now as a chef, right? To build these relationships, to do these videos, and do everything that you're doing. I'm sure a lot of principles are coming into play, and it goes to show that nothing is wasted. You
Yes.
learn and you can apply it to other parts of life, right?
Yes, because I remember when during my first year as a chef, I remember thinking like, wow, there were all these other experiences that I learned in the corporate world which I could apply to what I'm doing. Because I mean, just in terms of discipline, in terms of having a structure, in terms of communication, in terms of marketing, things like that. So that helped. And I also just continued to educate myself. I mean, apart from just learning how to make raw vegan food, I also took up a course on raw teacher training. So that was good to teach me actually how to set up my teacher training business, and also just how to market and things like that. And then like recently, because like now I'm doing more of online, I'm teaching courses online and all that. So I've also taken a course on online marketing and how to set up online business and all that. So it's a continuous learning journey. I mean, it's lifelong learning, right? You don't just graduate from school and get your degree and then you stop learning. You learn every single
Yeah.
day, so.
Yeah. So true, so true. Yeah. A lot of people learn and then they rest on their laurels and they're like, oh, this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's definitely a lot of value in pursuing more and learning more and educating yourself more, definitely. And that's very inspiring, that you went through in that way. You're continuing to learn. And I wanted to, you were talking about the marketing and the relationship building and stuff. You send a newsletter, you send a mail like every day to your mailing list. That is something very different, it's something new. I've not seen people do that, and I find myself opening them most of the time. So which means that, obviously you're creating interesting content. If nothing, at least I'll open and skim through it, a lot of the time. And I'm sure a lot of your readers do that too. So what inspired you to do that? Because it's not easy to sit and write a newsletter every single day. And I like your balance of making it personal with your stories, as well as, with value and interesting stuff. Sometimes recipes, sometimes talking about your courses and marketing it. It's a beautiful balance. So what makes you do that?
Yeah, you know what? It's really interesting because when I first started this e-newsletter, it was with a lot of reluctance, and I actually I did at that time when I first started it, I did not enjoy writing it. I just know that all the business teachers will say like, oh, you need to start your emails, you need to have an email list, da da da. So I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And then at that time, I will only send it out like once a month or something, or even less. I actually had so many events, but because in Malaysia, people don't really eat. It felt like people don't really read emails. It's just they work more through WhatsApp. So I was keeping people updated about all my courses and events and all that through WhatsApp actually. But there were two things that inspired me. So number one, if anybody has been following me, you would have heard of a Mr. Jazz guitarist.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's actually my boyfriend. He's a music educator. So he started doing daily emails because he's also been following some of the business and marketing gurus and things like that. And then, so he started doing daily emails, and he would tell me about what he writes in his emails. And he goes like, oh yeah, I wrote about this story in my email, and today I'm going to write about this, and then I'm going to tell them about my course. And then I'm just like, how do you write these daily things, right? And he started this last year, you see. So I think, and then by this year, I think when he started, he told me like, oh, he's already written 100 over. And I was like, do you know what? I should really try doing this thing as well. So I started that, and then there was this course that came up. Yeah, like I said, one of these marketing courses, email marketing courses, and so I took that course as well, which helped me figure out how to, like you said, how to create content which has a balance and also makes it very personal. And so I started writing, and because you write every day, I think you just get better at it, or at least if you're writing consciously to get better at it. So that's what I do, and I always try and think of to have the reader in mind, and I now I really enjoy doing it. What I do is
Oh yeah. I can see that. When it shows when you read it, it shows that you enjoy doing this, and it's rare to see someone get as excited about sending an email as we do about posting on social media. Like, I mean, I know what you meant when you said initially, like people say you have to develop a mailing list. I took the longest time to build my mailing list either. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And but then yes, once you get into it, yes, and I do enjoy sending a weekly email, but daily is like wow to me, and that too such good ones every day.
Yeah, what I do is because so I have my morning routine. It's part of my morning ritual actually. So I wake up and then I meditate, and then after my meditation, then I get then I start writing my email actually. So yeah, I start writing my email, and then after I do my email, then I do my um movement exercise. I do my qigong and all that. So and then after that, I go on to the rest of my day. So
Okay.
yeah, and because I think it's also very encouraging because like people have been writing back to me, including you. You've
Yeah.
also written to me like really nice emails, and yeah, I have people going like, oh, I love reading your e-newsletters. It's so refreshing, and it's so, and people say it's so real, it's so authentic, because sometimes
Yeah.
I do tell people like, oh, you can always unsubscribe if you don't like it, because it it's not necessary for it's not necessarily for everybody, because
Yeah.
yeah, some people like it, some people don't. So I always tell people you can always unsubscribe anytime you want. And then I have people writing back to me and go like, never. They're like, we love it. So that's also very, very encouraging. So yeah.
Yeah, it all comes from the balance. So if you have to give a suggestion to other business, other small business owners, other teachers, other people, content creators, like even me and our listeners, what kind of advice, because it goes to show that marketing is not only social media or only this or only that, it's about doing what you love, and if sending the emails brings you joy, great, that is your best marketing strategy. So what advice would you give them to, if they feel like, oh, writing a mail is boring, so or nobody may read it, or what advice would you give them on how to build a mail in such a way that there is a balance, and also where they feel joy doing it? What advice would you give them?
I think what I did was just try and find my own style, and you have to be yourself. You have to be your
Hmm.
authentic, true self. You know, that's where the whole sincerity comes through. You see, and I think that's when your readers will resonate with you. So yeah, I'm not quite sure whether that was useful or not.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that is very
Yeah.
very useful.
Yeah.
Authenticity is, it's the best advice. Actually, it's often given to people about authenticity, but then that applies to also any marketing, right? Social media and everything. But what about like specifically to an email list? Like, how do you balance it? Like, how do you decide? Okay, I'm going to put this much of marketing content, and this is when I'm going to share the recipe. Is that something you pre-plan? How do you go about that?
I try to think of okay, so I do different things, I sometimes talk about, so sometimes I share recipes, sometimes I share videos, sometimes I
Hmm.
just share the process of what I'm doing, sometimes I just share anecdotes of what is happening and things like that. I don't really have a schedule right now because, like I said, I think most of the time I wake up and I go like, oh, actually, sometimes I go to bed and I go like, what should I write about tomorrow? And then I have an idea. Or sometimes I wake up and I go like, oh, okay, what should I talk about today? Or sometimes
Hmm.
there are questions that come in, so then I answer all those questions. So that's quite useful when people ask me questions. Then I go like, oh, great, now I can talk about this, and then I can talk about that. I did have at one point. I did try to kind of. I do have a calendar, so I did schedule. Say like, okay, this day maybe I'll talk about this and this topic and different. So maybe one day I'll talk about cheese, another day I'll talk about tempeh, another day I'll talk about what is sushi, and
Hmm.
things like that. But I try and just find like really interesting things because I think as um, I've always been what my mother called, was it mother? Yeah, an inquisitive person, an inquisitive child. So I've always been very curious anyway. So I try and find out like little anecdotes or fun facts about things. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. I should share it, with my email readers about it as well. And and yeah, and then I get people writing back going like, wow, I learn new things every day, when I read your
Yes.
newsletter. And I say like, oh, okay. And then I know that this is useful. And I think that's really good because you're getting feedback from your audience telling you what they want and what they enjoy. So then you can serve them better, you see.
Yeah. Cool. It's nice to know that, okay, yes, you're doing like a mix and match. Sometimes you're scheduling things, but sometimes you're like, hey, I'm going to go with the flow. This is what I feel like writing today. And again, not following any fixed rules and doing what feels right in that moment. That's again a beautiful way to do it, right? That's actually great advice. And I'm sure if people start doing that, more people will write mail, will be more happy to send mails out than like, oh no, I have to do this letter now.
Yeah, because
So
because if you start with that energy, then it transfers through your email to the person,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So true. And you should feel happy. Whatever you do, you skip it if you don't want to, if you're not feeling good about it. But when you do feel good, only then do it. That's so true. So would you like to share anything else with the audience? Any other advice? Anything else at all? About your journey as a chef, as a raw vegan chef, and anything at all?
Um. Yeah, it's so funny. I wanted to say something like super cliche, like go with the flow and follow your passion and for your bliss. And I was like, wow, that sounds really cliched.
Well, sometimes cliches have value. There's a reason it's a cliche, right?
I think
No, that.
Yeah, I think what I do want to say also, when I do tell my students a lot about this, I think apart from all that go with the flow and follow your passion, I think you should always continue to educate yourself and invest in yourself. I think that's the word. Yeah, invest in yourself. Because I realized that, and that's one thing that I learned from my teacher Karen Nola, like in the early days when I took her raw teacher training course. She said that every year she actually has a budget that she sets aside so that she can invest in herself, so she can take courses to learn better and all that. And that's something that I have really taken into doing every single year. So I like this year, I'm doing the Food Future Institute course. So that's a vegan course by Matthew Kenny as well. But it's not fully raw. It's a combination of raw and cooked as well. But I've learned a lot from it, just in terms of just in terms of as a chef. I think that's really helping me to elevate my dishes even better. And I've learned new techniques. I've been so inspired. And I've gotten to connect with so many great teachers, and also like connect with so many other plant-based chefs around the world through the course as well. So I think that's something that I found that very useful. And so every year I do take courses, I take master classes. Last year when I was in the UK, I took a live in-person master class with Amy Levine. So when I travel, when I used to be able to travel, I will also try and seek out teachers as well that I can learn from. So just continuously educating and learning and investing in yourself. I think that really helps.
That's great advice. And, particularly you use the word investing, and that is true. It's not about just educating, but also it's good to spend money for quality education. It's good to keep some aside and spend money and do it, and not just go like, yes, of course, the internet is full of free information. It's, I'm sharing free information and so are you. But then if somebody is spending money, so if the free information provides this much value, then what is the course going to have? It's going to have so much more.
Yeah.
And doing that, investing in learning, studying, paying money to do that, that's a very big deal. And there is a clear impact. There is a clear difference in when you do it that way versus just going and looking up free information online.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks so much for that advice, and I hope it inspires a lot of people in the audience to pursue it and think about it. Yin, if people want to connect with you, where can they get, reach out to you? Where can they follow you? Where can they subscribe to your newsletter that we've talked about?
Okay, so yeah, my website is rawchefyin.com, and there is a newsletter tab on the website, so they can subscribe to my e-newsletter there. And then I'm a lot on Facebook and Instagram. So again, on Facebook I'm Raw Chef Yin, on Instagram I'm Raw Chef Yin, and then now I'm trying to I've started uploading YouTube videos regularly as well, so maybe like 3 to 4 videos in a week and on YouTube. So I'm also at youtube.com/rawchefyin. So those are the main ways that people can find me.
Great. I'm going to drop all those links in the show notes. So everybody who's listening, you can connect with Yin and check out all the beautiful, delicious creations that she's making. And you don't have to be vegan or raw to admire and enjoy that food. That's the key here. It's just good, delicious food for everyone and anyone. So thank you so much for being here, Chef Yin. It was good to host you and, talk to you in person and listen to your story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. This has been really fun, and it's like really nice to hear your voice and be able to connect again, because it's been some time since we last saw each other.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right then.
Veganism is catching up and fastly growing all across the globe. Especially here in India, the growth has been exponential in the past just 5, 6, 7 years. If you know what vegan is and you also know the reasons why it's great to be vegan, but you don't know how to do it, then I have the perfect course for you, my brand new course, Vegan Immersion Experience. In this course, I teach you how to be vegan, but just not how. Also, I teach you how to be a joyful vegan. That's what's important. How to love every bit of it, just the way that I do. So, if you're interested to know more about how to be vegan, to try it out, if you've ever been curious about it, then this course is just for you. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website veganosaurus.com, which is www.veganosaurus.com, and you'll find a link to the Vegan Immersion Experience course. Looking forward to having you on board. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye!